Welcome to the PinLeader podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The PinLeader podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
Hello and welcome everyone back to the PinLeader podcast. Today we're going to be talking about small stuff matters. Small stuff matters. And I have the privilege of having on the show with me today Mr. Greg Walker, who has 25 years experience working in the information technology field. He's worked for a number of companies and government entities such as Bell Howell Electronic Data Systems, Apple Computer, and NASA as a contractor. He's held several roles with commercial and governmental space as a software engineer, network engineer, software quality assurance engineer, a senior systems administrator, and systems engineer. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science from Cleveland State and Programming Systems Institute, and a number of certifications, which, of course, I'm going to have him explain them as we talk through this show. But we're going to be focusing on the small stuff. I'm excited about the topic because we're going to be talking about space. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Greg Walker. Hello, Greg.
How are you doing, Shanda? Good to talk to you.
I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. So I am... go over your certification so I know our audience can know what your background is.
Okay, so I think the first one I have listed there of one of my certifications is called ITIL Foundation version 3. And actually there's an ITIL Foundation version 4 out now that's a little dated, but basically what ITIL is, it's a framework for managing IT organizations in either business or government, in the government space. There's different aspects of ITIL that basically you study and get a certification with. Basically what this certification allows you to do is become an expert with information technology processes on how to organize your information technology organization to become efficient as far as providing services to customers in a business or government setting. So the second certification I have is called an Agile Scrum Master. And basically what Agile Scrum is, it's a software development framework that's used to produce software quickly, basically. And that's a very simplified explanation. But what it allows you to do is basically from concept to design to procurement of software assets to producing the software. It allows you to do that in a very efficient manner. It allows you to manage your software projects basically from a very high level all the way down to a detailed level and produce software on a iterative basis as far as what they call 2-week sprints, where you can adapt to customer requirements quickly. And a Scrum Master basically is a person that's certified to basically provide leadership in that area to software development teams. So those, and I believe the third one I have is a Network Plus, which basically is a basic certification for managing networks, computer networks. So those are my certifications currently that I have.
Well, that's plenty. I'm picturing all of them, and I think with the leadership position is very interesting to me because it's something that what you find is that individuals that lead teams that have so much experience, you've got a lot of weight on your shoulders. And when we talk about leadership, and especially in these areas that are growing, are always changing, there's always something new going on with computers. And, in today's episode, we're talking about, some of the pieces that we're finding in space, that even the tracking of some of this and what that looks like, and being a leader in that, and to alert basically the world on what's going on in space. One of the topic areas that really gets my thought, and I thought this would be great to explore, is a recent it was a recent story that came out about a tool belt that someone had, it had detached from them in space, and you can now look at it, from what I understand, in space with a pair of binoculars because it's stuck in a rotating position. You know what I'm talking about? Can you share a little bit about that? I think it's
Yes, the International Space Station, I believe, has some astronauts that we have, and I work for NASA. We have astronauts populating the International Space Station, a crew of international astronauts from Russia and the United States. They perform with a basic maintenance tasks on the space station that's in a orbit that's approximately almost about 200,000 miles above the surface of the Earth. While they're in orbit at 17,000 miles per hour, if you can believe that. And basically, when you're in orbit, that kind of orbit around the Earth is called low Earth orbit. You're basically falling at that speed, but your momentum is keeping you above the atmosphere so you don't burn up. So you need to maintain that speed. If your speed drops below basically at 17,000 miles per hour, you'll start falling. And then when you hit the friction of the atmosphere, you'll burn up. So what happened basically was in what they call microgravity, which is very small amount of gravity, because you're going, once you leave the space station, you're still moving at 17,000 miles per hour. If you drop anything, that momentum carries that whatever you've dropped at that same speed, and then you're in microgravity. It's orbiting the Earth. Eventually, the friction of the atmosphere will slow it down, and it will eventually the tool bag, which we're talking about, will burn up. But until that happens, until enough friction of the atmosphere slows it down enough where it starts falling again, you can view this with binoculars if you calculate the orbit. I think the way to calculate that, they have programs that tell you where the space station will come over your home. You can calculate that or download something for your iPhone that will tell you, hey, the space station will be orbiting over your house from south to west or east to west at this time, and you can view the space station. Well, they said the tool bag would probably be, maybe about 20, 30 seconds ahead of the space station as it comes over, so you'll have to keep a lookout for it. And basically what you're going to see is reflective sunlight off of the tool bag, and you could probably see this at night if it's a good clear night with binoculars. So
I was going to say it really, the small stuff, as we're saying, does matter because it is dangerous to have this there. Is that right?
yes, it is. Anything that's in orbit could come in contact with that. And remember, when I said these things are moving at over 17,000 miles per hour to maintain a stable orbit, that is pretty fast. So imagine something hitting you, even a small screw moving at 17,000 miles an hour. I mean, that's going to cause catastrophic damage. That's why it could be, any what they call space debris. And the government, NASA, they track the space debris because there's a lot of stuff in orbit now. You have the Chinese, you have the Japanese sending spacecraft. There's a lot of junk in orbit, and it's become a problem. And NASA has to keep an eye on it. Now, a lot of this stuff does, like I said, as it hits atmospheric friction, it burns up into the atmosphere. Another thing to keep in mind is the space station has a finite life. So NASA scheduled that to end, I think, in 2030. So they will have to, what they call, do a controlled deorbit of the space station, because if they did not do anything, it would start to burn up. But it's so big that huge pieces would land, in an uncontrolled deorbit and could possibly land and kill people. So that's why they're going to have to what they call a controlled deorbit of the space station. Hopefully it'll crash into the sea, but that's in 2030
Oh,
supposedly.
well, that's not too far away from here.
No. So you can see the tool bag with a good pair of binoculars. I would say it'd be more difficult with a telescope because a telescope the angle of view is more narrow and it's harder to span the sky with a telescope. You have to be pretty accurate with a set of binoculars and hold it steady to see the tool bag. So,
As someone
but
who's tried this, I cannot keep track of where things are in the sky. If it's rotating or moving, I can't do it. I can't see it.
well, you can download programs for your iPhone or your Android device that actually you would type in ISS space station, and it will tell you the times and the sector of the sky to look for the pass of the orbit of the International Space Station. So you can have a program do the calculations for you, and it will tell you, and you just have to go outside at that particular time and use your compass on your phone and point to the direction where it says it will be coming over the horizon, and then what it looks like a fast moving star, real bright. You would be able to see it, and if you have good powerful binoculars, you would actually be able to make a detail of the space station. It does pass over pretty fast. Remember, I said it's moving at 17,000 miles an hour. So
Yes, that's amazing speed.
yes, so but I would recommend anybody get one of these programs to try it out on your Android or your iPhone and see if you can see it. You can see it with the naked eye. Like I said, it just looks like a star that's really passing over real fast.
So I've tried it with just the plain night sky and seen it passing quickly. Then I've tried it with my telescope. I can't keep it in the trajectory because I'm not sophisticated enough to have the it's not there's not a machine or a computer attached to the telescope because I understand you can get those and you can track it. So I'm going to have to go to the old fashioned way with the phone and do my best. But I do want to see it, and it'd be interesting to see the tool bag that in space.
Yeah, I would recommend binoculars. They're a little cheaper than a telescope, but if you get decent ones, you should be able to see it because you really don't need the power that a telescope provides to see it because, like I said, it's in low Earth orbit. So you should be able to see it with a good set of binoculars, like the ones you would take to a football game or something like that. So
So
not
that
much to worry about.
not much to worry about.
Right.
Just want to make sure when you say low orbit, it's truly not in our where it fly zones. It's definitely up above.
Oh
Where
yeah,
yeah,
it's yeah, hundreds of thousands of miles up.
above.
Yeah, yeah, above.
What do you advise if anyone's interested in space or, for those that are like, I'm interested in learning more about space? Because again, you see these articles and information that comes out about space garbage and tracking. And then this is not a conversation that was had 35 years ago, at least not openly in the public. Can you,
Right.
what would you advise someone who is aspiring to learn more about this?
Well, if they want to do this as a hobby, I would recommend subscribing to NASA has a Facebook page. NASA has a website where they put out bulletins and information for the public. If you're thinking about a career working with space, there's various avenues, a lot more avenues now than when I was a child. At NASA, we have a internship program where college students can apply and you get actual real world experience in the summers working at a NASA facility on real projects. Anybody can apply. I think there's even a website called usa.gov.jobs that you can apply on there, or you can go to a NASA website and do a search for NASA internship program if you're interested in a career with NASA. There's also now we have something called a military branch called the Space Force now. I think
Yes, we
people
do.
can join that. And you were mentioning tracking. The Space Force, that's part of their job is to track threats to the United States. So, and they use the latest technology to track and catalog threats, and which would probably be spy satellites and things like that. You would need a security clearance. So you have to have a very clean background to get a security clearance. I have a clearance called a public trust, which I had to undergo an extensive background check to do the job that I do at NASA, which is in the information technology field. But that that's something that's open to young people now. Space Force, and again, you can work for SpaceX. That's a commercial entity, that Elon Musk company. You can work there, and SpaceX has a contract with NASA to develop space capsules and rockets to basically go to the space station. Also, they're developing spacesuit technology. They're developing a lander for our Artemis moon mission. So a young person would have an opportunity, if they're interested in space, to work for SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very competitive market, but you can, you can get your education and then try to work for SpaceX after you graduate, or internship there. So there's various avenues if you're interested in this as a career to get into space technology, or if you just want to do it as a hobby, you can follow NASA on the various internet web pages and get yourself a telescope. I recommend anybody get a telescope or a good set of binoculars and just go out and look at the sky. You know,
Mm-hmm. I know that they say the fall is a good time to do that when it's a little bit colder at night to catch some of the stars. And again, I think the space station has flown over our home a few times and going out and catching it. These are, again, conversations you wouldn't have had 30, 40 years ago. And even the width the of how much you can get involved. I think you're to your point, Greg, the field is so much more open, both on the private and the public side, because of the advancement of technology and then leaders working collaboratively together, which is really critically important.
yes, yes. When I started, I started in the commercial space in information technology, and probably since 2011 is when I started with NASA. And it was interesting because I came from the commercial side, and I had really did not have a clue really how NASA operated, or how the government operated. There's a lot. The government's a lot different from the commercial side, and so some of the first projects I worked on with NASA was something called "Bring Your Own Device to Work" project. I actually published a white paper on that for NASA, and that project was basically bringing your own computer and IT devices to use in the NASA environment. And the challenge of that was that how do you use your personal devices in a secure environment? And NASA is a very secure environment where
Mm-hmm.
you have to be, because they have a lot of what I call secret stuff. So the project I worked on, what ended up happening was one of the leaders on the project, he was looking for new engineers, and nobody really wanted to work with him at the time. They didn't really understand this project, and I was new. So basically, it got dumped in my lap, but it became something very interesting to work on, and I got to really work with some nice technology and some fine people on the project, and got to actually produce a white paper for NASA that for a new person coming in, it was really a good opportunity. So basically, I took advantage of the opportunity, and then I worked with NASA on some what they call a conceptual modeling laboratory. I was the system administrator for that laboratory, which I provided all the IT support for that laboratory. And it was interesting because basically we got to model missions to, in a conceptual basis, missions to Mars, missions to Europa. We did 3D printing of a spacecraft in that laboratory. And basically these were conceptual models of how we would basically launch a submarine, drill through the ice of Europa and launch a submarine to probe the oceans of Europa, which is a moon of Jupiter. So I got to basically see all of this technology, and I got to talk to scientists. I talked to some of the scientists that worked on the Viking mission. They would come into this laboratory and meet and discuss things, and I'd sit on as a peer and talk to them about some of the past Mars missions. So it was very interesting work that I got to perform when I first hired in. I was really shocked by that, somebody that's brand new that gets these kind of opportunities, but that's what happened. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really was nice.
Well, I think that speaks volumes about your willingness to try something different that other people might have been a little shy to attempt to do, and that brings, with leadership. You're a leader in your field. There's a reason why you're a leader in your field, because you take those chances and opportunities to go out and try something that's different and new. That's I think when you look at being an effective leader, because you obviously are. You've been working in this field for a long time. You've actually encouraged others to work in the field. You did today, as you've done in the past. What is it that you look for on your teams when you look at leaders that come in? What are the characteristics of an effective leader?
Yeah, I've been a leader, a manager. I was a manager at a company called Bell and Howell, in a division that basically developed and invented the what they call electronic parts catalogs. So in that position, what I would always look for in any of my leadership would be somebody with strategic vision. And when I say strategic vision, it would be somebody who basically thinks different. They can see trends. They value inputs from their employees, and also they have the ability to not micromanage. They have the ability to basically scout out good talent and hire good talent to implement their strategic vision in a tactical manner. So I would say they're a good judge of talent. You have a great leader that basically that's one of the most important things. Be a great judge of talent. Also, be able to see trends in the industry that you're in. When I say trends, you can look out 5 years in the future and kind of anticipate the challenges and the changes coming to your industry, and also look for opportunities. So I think those are some of the most important things: is good judge of talent, and be able to anticipate and have that strategic vision at least 4 or 5 years down the road of your industry. Also, going with that person, a good leader would be a people person, where they, again, as part of hiring the best people, you know how to keep those people engaged and performing at a high level and interested in the work they're doing. So again, I always found poor leadership is a person that has to micromanage, because that means you're not a good judge of talent, and you don't trust the people that you've put in place to perform your the tactical vision from your strategic vision. So that's basically what I call and define as good leadership.
Well, thank you for that. I would agree with you. I think that strategic vision is very important, and strategic planning that goes along with that is critically important. There are individuals who are just managing either businesses, or they're managing situations just day to day, but not really looking or trying to sit down and set those goals with action items that go with it, and then measure them. And so it's really very important for the leader to have that vision. But I want to say thank you for coming on today to even address this with space. I think people, you look up, you may think about what might be in space, but you see movies, but I mean, you're working in the space that actually deals with space. And so really appreciate your time today.
I appreciate you talking to me. Hope to talk to you again.
Excellent. Yes. And so for those that are listening today, we encourage you to do all of these things. Go out, explore. There's some great advisement about taking a chance, an opportunity, even something that you may not originally think would be suitable, or something that you would normally do, to go out and try it. So as always on our show, we want to say thank you for listening as we get straight to the topic points, where hopefully we're strengthening your awareness and sharpening your mind at the same time. So until next time.
The PinLeader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates Ltd., creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the PinLeader podcast and share with others.